Have you ever wondered why the world seems obsessed with noise? Loud opinions, constant validation, endless applause. What if I told you that silence, the kind you feel deep in your bones, is not weakness, but a powerhouse? Intrigued? Let's dive in. Let me share a truth that took me years to internalize. Silence is not the absence of strength, it's the very proof of it. In a society addicted to constant attention and noisy displays, the person who chooses silence has already won half the battle. You don't need a booming voice to command respect or prove your point. Think about it, you don't have to jump into every skirmish or respond to every critic. In fact, sometimes the most earth-shattering powerful action you can take is saying nothing and just keeping moving. Imagine that. Because the real quietness, that calm, unshakable inner peace, emerges when your confidence takes root not in others' validation, but in your own truth. When you truly understand who you are, you stop chasing the spotlight. You no longer feel the need to explain, defend, or beg for applause. Instead, you stand firm in your integrity. You pause not out of fear, but because your concentration is sacred. You're mastering yourself, not others. And remember, not every battle is worth your energy. Some debates are traps designed to derail you from your purpose. There was a time I believed that silence made me invisible, weak even. I felt that if I didn't correct every misunderstanding, I was somehow surrendering my power. But integrity doesn't live in noise. It lives in restraint. And here's the truth. It takes far more courage to maintain your composure than to argue with lost causes. Strong people don't need to shout, they let their life be the resounding message. Silence isn't just a choice, it's a posture of trust. When you remain quiet, you're whispering, "I trust God or the universe or my inner compass to handle this. I'm not in charge, but I believe." That posture, that calm faith often opens doors that brute force cannot. Consider this. Maybe the breakthrough you've been chasing hasn't arrived yet, because you're still fighting battles that aren't yours. You're desperately waving your flag when all you really need to do is release it. Let the fight go. Surrender and let transformation quietly unfold. Let me offer a powerful example. When Jesus stood before his accusers, he didn't shout. He didn't argue. He didn't plead. He stood in door-opening silence. Because truth doesn't shout, it simply is. That silence, power in control, authority anchored, spoke louder than any defense ever could. In your life, there will be moments when you're misunderstood, misjudged, underestimated. That's okay. Let them. Don't jump. Don't explain. Don't prove. Your silence in that moment isn't empty, it's solid. It screams internally, "I'm grounded. I know who I am. I'm not shaken." The people who scream the loudest, chances are they're begging for something they haven't found yet. Validation, relevance, worth. But when you're walking in purpose, you don't raid the comment box. You let consistency speak for you. Let results hum your name. Let your steady march become the roar they hear. Think about a tree in a forest. Do you hear it go on and on about how tall it's grown? No, it just grows. Year after year, season after season. And everyone sees it, no explanation needed. The next time you're tempted to shout into the void or drown in the noise, pause. Picture your inner tree standing tall and silent. Let its silence be your fortress. Let it be your claim, your unshakable, unbothered, unwavering, and your silence is proof. It just keeps reaching. Quietly, persistently, without shouting, without demanding attention, just growing inch by inch. And one day, without any announcement, the very people who once overlooked the tiny seed, they'll stand in awe of the fruit. The silence they once mocked becomes the proof they cannot ignore. But let me tell you something powerful. Staying silent is not about avoiding conflict. It's about commanding your spirit. It's about choosing mastery over impulse. You've got to reach a place in your journey where your inner peace is no longer negotiable, where it isn't hijacked just because someone else woke up angry, insecure, or out of alignment. Imagine having a peace so deep, so anchored, that no storm can reach it. That's the goal. To mature to the point where someone else's chaos doesn't shake your calling. Because here's the secret: when the enemy can't destroy your purpose, he'll try to distract it. Every single time. He'll send offense, confusion, petty arguments, meaningless drama. All just noise meant to detour you. But when you resist the urge to respond, when you stay grounded, focused, and silent, guess what? You win. Every time. Don't waste your precious energy trying to convince people of what God, or destiny, or the universe has already confirmed within you. Let them talk. Let them assume. Let them misjudge. You keep building. You keep rising. You keep showing up to your assignment with quiet faithfulness. Because there will come a moment when your breakthrough will speak louder than your defense ever could. Stay grounded. Stay focused. Stay silent. And then, watch. Watch how the universe responds. Watch how heaven moves. There is a kind of sacred growth that only happens in silence, away from applause, away from the glare of attention, away from the exhausting pressure to perform. We live in a world screaming, "Be seen, be heard, be validated." But what if the real magic happens in the shadows, in those invisible spaces where transformation doesn't need an audience, just surrender? That's where the deep work begins, not under spotlights, but in stillness, in the corners of your soul where no one is clapping, no one is watching, but everything is changing. And yes, some of the most important seasons of your life will feel lonely, not because you're forgotten, but because you're being set apart. And hear me, separation isn't rejection. It's divine preparation. God isolates before He elevates. He pulls you into hiddenness, not to punish you, but to prepare you to strip away the noise, the pressure, the distractions, so He can show you who you really are without the need for applause, so He can teach you how to be whole even when no one sees you. Because growth, true lasting growth, requires stillness. It demands patience. It often asks you to walk alone for a while, trusting the process. Think about a seed. Before it becomes anything remarkable, before it breaks the soil and stretches toward the sun, it must go underground, hidden, covered, alone. It has to break in the dark before it can rise in the light. No one throws a party for a seed buried in silence. There's no applause for the breaking. But without that sacred silence, there would be no bloom. That isolation is not abandonment. It's divine development. A season where God is preparing your roots, strengthening your core, building you up far beneath the surface before He ever lets you be seen. And in your life, oh yes, there will be times when you feel buried, forgotten. But remember this: God hasn't left you. He's growing you. So after the silence, after the season of breaking, of being buried, you begin to feel the shift. You're not the same. And that change, it doesn't go unnoticed. People around you might not understand what you're doing. Some may tilt their heads and say, "You've changed." Others may whisper that you've become distant, cold, or different. And maybe in their eyes you have. But here's the truth: they don't need to understand. Let them think what they will. You are not here to explain your process. You are here to protect it. Because when you're in the midst of building something real inside yourself, something rooted, authentic, and lasting, you don't have the luxury of being everywhere for everyone. You don't have the bandwidth to chase opinions, please crowds, or accommodate distractions. This is the season where your yes to purpose means saying no to noise. You've grown unavailable to things that drain your focus. You're not avoiding people out of pride. You're choosing solitude out of necessity. And when you're fully committed to your destiny, you'll notice it, those silent seasons that feel like nothing is happening. Like your prayers are just bouncing off the walls. Like movement has stopped. But hear me, those are the seasons where God is working the deepest. In the stillness, He's pruning your heart, healing old wounds, realigning your motives, strengthening your character quietly, invisibly, purposefully. You may not see the change just yet, but one day you'll walk into a room and feel it. That unshakable calm, that quiet confidence, that peace that doesn't beg for approval. You won't need applause to feel worthy. You won't keep chasing love from places that only emptied you. You'll stand tall, not in arrogance, but in wholeness. That's the fruit of growth done in private. That's the true power of silence. But let's be honest, not everyone is meant to walk with you through this transformation. Some people were only designed for your past, not your future. And the more you try to drag them with you into the next chapter, the heavier your steps will become. Destiny gets delayed when you try to carry relationships that were never meant to cross into your purpose. Let them go. Let them misinterpret your silence. Let them call it ego or distance. You don't owe them your process. What you owe to yourself is obedience. Obedience to follow the path God is leading you on, even when that path becomes quieter than you expected. Growth doesn't always feel good. It stretches. It presses. It brings you face to face with your own weaknesses. And you may be tempted to run, to numb, to retreat. But don't. Lean into it. Because God's goal isn't to make you popular. It's to make you powerful, and real power. It doesn't scream. It doesn't seek applause. It doesn't crave attention. It simply walks in purpose, in wisdom, and in peace. No spotlight required. So when you find yourself in that quiet season, when the noise fades and all that's left is, you don't panic. Don't rush. Don't try to escape the silence. Sit with it. Listen in it. Become through it. Because what God is crafting in the stillness is far more valuable than anything you'll ever find under the bright lights of the world. You are being shaped in silence, carved like stone by invisible hands, refined not for applause, but for assignment. Every quiet moment, every unseen trial, it's not wasted. It's work. Sacred, intentional, divine work. You're not being prepared for popularity. You're being prepared for purpose. And purpose isn't loud. Purpose is patient. Stay in the process even when it feels slow. Stay in the stillness even when it feels empty. That stillness, that's where your power is being built. One of life's toughest truths is this: not everyone is meant to walk beside you. That's a hard pill to swallow, especially when your heart wants to bring everyone along. But here's the wisdom: some people were only ever meant to witness the beginning of your story, not its chapters of victory. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table, a look at your vision, or a voice in your process. And that's not arrogance. That's alignment. It's not pride. It's protection. It's discernment. You can't expect to live a life of peace if you keep offering keys to people who only know how to unlock chaos. Your purpose is not a playground, it's a temple. Guard it like sacred ground. Because the wrong people, even in the right positions, can derail your entire path. You don't owe the world an explanation for every move. You don't need to narrate your growth. You don't need to live stream your healing. The most powerful moments of your life will not happen on stage. They'll happen in silence, in secret, where only you and God are present. And sharing something sacred with someone who isn't spiritually ready, that's like throwing pearls into a storm. Closeness doesn't mean calling. Just because someone is near doesn't mean they're meant to go where you're going. Some people are familiar with you, but they're not assigned to you. And you have to learn the difference, because it's a dangerous thing to confuse proximity with purpose. We live in a culture obsessed with showing, proving, posting. But your next move, it's not for the crowd. It's for the calling. Keep it quiet. Keep it covered. Protect it like a seed, not yet ready to break through the soil. You don't need the world's permission to grow. Growth makes its own announcement. Alignment whispers louder than applause ever could. Let your actions speak. Let your results echo. Let your peace testify. Too many of our setbacks come from listening to voices that were never meant to influence our decisions. You let them into your heart, and suddenly what was clear becomes clouded. What was sacred becomes shaken. Doubt, fear, confusion, they enter quietly, but they damage deeply. That's why you must be selective with your space. Not bitter, not cold, just wise. There's a difference between having a generous heart and handing it to people who were never designed to hold it. Some people were just passing through, but you built them a home, and now it's time to evict what no longer honors your evolution. There's a unique weight to purpose, a sacred responsibility that can't be shared with just anyone. If they don't carry the oil, they can't carry the weight. If they don't understand the cost, they'll never respect the calling. Stop waiting for support from people who were never equipped to give it. And now the real question is, who are you still carrying that's quietly holding you back? It's not that they're bad people. It's just they're not built for your path. And that's okay. Everyone's journey has a different terrain, a different climate. Some can walk with you for a mile, but not for the mountain. So let them go. Gently, peacefully, with no bitterness, just grace. Because sometimes before God lifts you higher, He trims your circle tighter. Why? Because elevation often requires separation. You can't soar with anchors tied to your wings. And the silence you've been feeling lately, that eerie stillness that creeps into your evenings, it's not loneliness. It's clarity. It's God clearing the room, removing the noise, tuning out the static so you can finally hear what He's been whispering all along. Can you truly hear the divine when you're always surrounded by distraction? You can't. Not when you're constantly explaining your heart, defending your dreams, performing just to be accepted. That kind of environment doesn't grow you, it drains you. There is untold power in stillness. There is strength in moving silently, in trusting that your destiny doesn't need public validation to be real. Not everything sacred is meant to be shared. It's perfectly okay to move differently now, to distance yourself, to detach, to outgrow people, places, conversations that once felt like home but now feel like noise. That's not pride, that's progress. That's growth, doing its sacred work. Growth doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it comes with separation. Not because you think you're better, no, but because you're becoming more you. You've changed, haven't you? You've started to see your time, your energy, your inner peace, not as endless resources, but as precious treasures. And now you're more intentional. You're not opening doors for just anyone to walk through. You're guarding your space not with coldness, but with care. That's not arrogance. That's stewardship. That's understanding that every new level of blessing comes with a deeper level of responsibility. So let them talk. Let them say you've changed. Let them say you've gone quiet, or you've grown distant. That's fine. They didn't see the late-night prayers, the silent tears, the moments you questioned everything, but still chose to rise. They don't carry your calling. They don't feel the fire that wakes you in the middle of the night. You're not being rude. You're being responsible. You're not avoiding people. You're avoiding distractions. Because there comes a time, a shift, when you realize this protecting your peace is far more important than being understood by everyone. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is silence. No arguments, no explanations. Just walk forward. Just grow anyway. Just keep your eyes on what matters most. Because the people who are truly for you, They won't require constant access to validate your worth. They'll respect your quiet seasons. They'll honor your boundaries. And if they're truly meant to be in your next chapter, they'll meet you there at the next level. Not out of entitlement, but out of alignment. You don't need a crowd clapping to keep moving forward. You need courage. Quiet, steady courage. And here's the beautiful truth. When you stop chasing noise and start cultivating stillness, you discover something sacred. Peace isn't something you find. It's something you build deep within. And that's where we begin to see the real transformation unfold. When you begin building peace from the inside out, everything starts to shift. And suddenly, you stop chasing noise and start choosing stillness. So many of us spend years, even decades, searching for peace in all the wrong places. We look for it in relationships, in achievements, in how many people approve of us, in how much we own, or how high we've climbed. We believe that if we could just get everything right on the outside, we'll finally feel whole, finally feel calm. But that calm never truly comes because real peace doesn't live out there. Peace begins the moment you stop depending on circumstances or people to hand it to you. It begins the moment you pause, look inward, and realize, what if the peace I've been chasing has always been inside me, waiting to be chosen? When you shift your focus from watching others to working on yourself, a new clarity emerges. The fog of comparison starts to lift. You stop measuring your journey by someone else's milestones, and suddenly you can breathe. You feel lighter, freer, because the moment you stop carrying the weight of others' expectations, you start aligning with your own purpose. And what a beautiful, sacred realization that is. You don't need anyone's permission to feel at peace. You don't need to fit into their mold. You simply need to walk in step with God's design for your life. And that truly is more than enough. As you redirect your energy inward, you begin to notice how much time you've spent chasing things that never really mattered. You see clearly how much of your joy was given away to thoughts like, what do they think? What are they doing? Why not me? The world makes it so easy to fall into that trap: comparison, competition, constant noise. But when your focus shifts to your own growth, your own purpose, and your unique journey, something powerful happens. You become so invested in what's blooming inside of you that you no longer have room to worry about what's happening outside. Their opinions, their timelines, their applause, it loses its grip on you. Because peace isn't about being ahead. It's about being aligned. It's knowing you're exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you were called to do. And when that peace is rooted deeply within you, nurtured by faith, strengthened through trials, nothing from the outside can take it away. Life may still bring rejection, loss, disappointment. But if your peace was never built on the surface, then the storm can't destroy what's grounded deep. And that, dear soul, is the kind of peace that endures. So now the question becomes, how do we begin to protect that peace, even when the world pulls at every edge of it? The storm may rage all around you, loud, wild, unpredictable, but you remain steady, unshaken. That kind of inner strength. It's rare, but it's exactly what this world needs today. It's a strength that doesn't depend on perfect timing or peaceful surroundings. It's a kind of peace that stands tall in the chaos. A peace that doesn't come from a person, a place, or a paycheck, but from a deeper truth. It's the peace that rises from knowing who you are, and more importantly, whose you are. It's rooted in your relationship with God, not in your relationship with your situation. And when you find that kind of peace, the real kind, the unshakable kind, it begins to bear fruit in your life. You feel it in your clarity. You walk in it with confidence. You radiate it through joy. You stand firm even when life tries to push you over. And here's the beautiful part. Peace doesn't just change you, it transforms everything around you. Your relationships begin to shift. Your outlook changes. The way you respond to stress softens. Even the hardest situations begin to lose their grip on your spirit. Why? Because peace has a power of its own. It's not passive, it's active. It transforms atmospheres. When you're at peace with yourself, you stop attracting chaos. You stop making room for toxicity. You stop running after things that leave you empty. Instead, you begin to attract what aligns with that peace, healthy people, uplifting opportunities, divine timing. When peace becomes your priority, life begins to mirror that intention. Your energy shifts. Your boundaries strengthen. Your blessings become clearer. So why then do we so often keep chasing peace in places that can't hold it? Why do we still seek approval, applause, and attention, believing those things will make us whole? It's because, somewhere along the way, we were taught that our value and our peace must be earned externally, that they're tied to performance, possessions, or popularity. But here's the truth. Peace is not a prize awarded by others. It's a choice, a daily moment-by-moment choice. And it's a process, a lifelong journey of learning to tune out the world and tune in to your spirit. The moment you embrace that truth is the moment you reclaim your power. You stop waiting for someone else to validate your worth. You stop depending on the next good thing to bring you joy. You decide that peace starts within. And that is where your true strength lies. The world will continue to tug at you. It will shout that you're behind, that you're not enough, that you should be more, do more, prove more. But here's what you must remember: your peace is yours. It's sacred. And you get to decide, will you be swept away by the noise, or will you anchor yourself in something eternal? Because once you make that decision, once you declare that your peace is non-negotiable, everything begins to shift. The distractions lose power. The wrong people fade out. The noise begins to quiet. Why? Because no one can disturb your peace unless you let them. So keep your focus. Stay committed to your growth. Let your peace reflect your faith, your resilience, and your unwavering dedication to the journey you're on. And when you do that, when you start living from the inside out, you'll be amazed at what begins to align in your life. There's something incredibly powerful, almost sacred, about learning to be still in a world that never stops moving. While everyone around you seems to be racing ahead, chasing deadlines, chasing dreams, chasing approval, you're learning something different. You're learning to sit in the quiet, to breathe in the silence, to stop measuring your worth by how much you do, and instead start listening for what's being formed within. Because progress doesn't always look like motion. Sometimes it looks like patience, like waiting when it feels uncomfortable, like trusting when everything around you says to panic. And in those still moments, those spaces between the noise, God is doing His deepest work in you. It's a refining, a molding, a quiet transformation that doesn't demand applause or require attention. It can't be rushed. It won't be broadcasted. But it's real. And it's holy. You see, the world will constantly shout, move faster, do more. Don't stop. But God often whispers a very different invitation. Rest. Be still. Know that I am God. It's in that stillness where true strength is born. It's in the silence where clarity begins to rise. And it's in the waiting where direction is revealed. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all, not out of laziness, but out of surrender. Not every battle is fought with noise. Some of the greatest victories are won in quiet trust, in choosing not to rush, in choosing not to force what isn't ready. When we rush, we overlook the sacred. We skim past the hidden lessons planted in the stillness. We miss the whispers meant to guide us. But when you shift your focus inward, when you begin to lean into the silence instead of resisting it, something changes. The more room you give God to work in your heart, the more He begins to reveal. Not just answers, but healing. Not just clarity, but calling. Silence, you see, isn't the absence of sound. It's the presence of something greater. It's the evidence that God is near, working behind the scenes, shifting pieces you can't yet see. When you finally stop trying to control everything, every outcome, every opinion, every step, God begins to move in ways you could have never scripted. In the stillness, He speaks. In the silence, He strengthens. And in the waiting, He prepares you for what's ahead. We often misunderstand silence because we've been trained to think noise equals progress. That being busy means being useful. But real growth, deep, lasting growth, often happens away from the spotlight. It happens when no one is clapping, when no one sees, when no one even knows what you're walking through. And yet, in those hidden places, something beautiful is unfolding. Even when it feels like nothing is happening, God is preparing you for something far greater than you imagined. So maybe it's time to stop fearing the silence. Because what if the silence is not empty, but full of purpose? Sometimes the deepest transformation doesn't happen in motion, but in stillness. It's in the waiting that God begins shaping the kind of character you'll need for the blessing He's preparing to place in your hands. Not every move of God is dramatic or instantly recognizable. Sometimes He works in ways we don't expect, quiet, slow, subtle. Sometimes His movement doesn't make sense to us in the moment, but make no mistake, He is moving. And if you're willing to wait, really wait, with patience, with silence, with trust in the process, then eventually you will see how He's been weaving all things together for your good. Even the things that felt like delays. Even the doors that didn't open. In the silence, you don't become weaker, you grow stronger. In the stillness, you don't fall behind, you grow deeper. The world around you might scream for speed. Keep pushing, keep hustling, don't stop. But God's whisper says something else. Be still and know that I am God. And it's in that stillness that you discover a quiet confidence, a deeper peace, a power that isn't loud but unshakable. Because when you finally slow down and become silent, you begin to hear what you've been missing in the noise. You hear the voice of God more clearly. You begin to recognize the true desires of your heart, not the ones influenced by comparison or fear, but the ones planted in you from the beginning. You begin to hear what truly matters, the things that align with your purpose. And as you lean into that silence, as you stop performing for the world and start listening within, something powerful begins to shift. You realize that your worth was never measured by how much noise you make, but by the depth of your peace, your strength, and your faith. In that stillness, wisdom begins to rise. The longer you sit with yourself, the more you uncover about who you are, about why you're here, about what really matters. You stop running after temporary things and start walking toward what's eternal. You no longer strive alone because you realize you were never meant to build this life by yourself. You were meant to build it with God. And it's only when you rest in His presence, when you stop doing and start trusting, that the fullness of His blessings begins to come into view. So stop rushing. Stop comparing your timeline to someone else's. Their pace is not your purpose. Their path is not your proof. Stay focused. Stay silent. Let God work in you during those quiet in-between moments when it seems like nothing is happening. Because those are the moments when He's doing His greatest work. Preparing, strengthening, aligning. And when the time is right, what once looked like silence will suddenly reveal itself as the foundation for everything He promised you. So stay grounded, stay quiet, and most of all, stay faithful. Because this stillness, it's not a pause, it's preparation. And now, as we take the next step forward, let's talk about what it really means to trust that preparation, even when the world around you says to doubt it.